Welcome to Make Fair Repeat. Today I'm going to make this Rebel Alliance lamp. So I started with a piece of oak that had a fairly straight edge on one side. I ripped it down, turned it over and cleaned up that other side. It was still too thick though, so I had to split it in half. Now, don't do what I did. You should always start with the saw blade low and slowly bring it up, making lots of passes, flipping the piece over to finish it. Doing it how I did, especially with a cheaper table saw, puts a lot of unnecessary strain on the saw blade and you just won't get a good cut. Doing it this way left me with a lot of cleanup to do. Then I cut 4 pieces to length, made a jig out of some scraps and a piece of MDF, and then after cleaning up the mess I made, I took the whole jig over to the CNC machine. But before I could do that, I needed a design, so I found an image of the Rebel Alliance logo online, imported it into Illustrator and traced it out with the pen tool. Next I exported this pen line as a DXF and into my CAM software, and from there it was off to the CNC. Once all 4 pieces had been cut, I gave them a quick sanding. Next I set my table saw to 45 degrees and using a crosscut sled, cut a bevel on 2 sides of each piece. Then it was time to glue them all up. Then, using the crosscut sled again, I cut a piece for the top. Then I glued this in place and, using a piece of scrap, clamped the whole thing together and left it to dry. Next it was onto the base. Now, to give this project a bit of a techie twist, I decided to 3D print this. I made it in 2 parts. The top is a tray that the wood can sit into, and it'll house the LEDs that will shine up through it. The bottom will house the controller, and both will be held together with M3 nuts and bolts. It's no good having the light just shine through an empty hole though, so I decided to print a single wall of white PLA. This can then be pushed up through the piece and used as a diffuser. Then it was on to the electronics. Now I'm using NeoPixels and a trinket board from Adafruit. Now the cool thing about this is I can power the whole thing from a micro USB cable, but I can also reprogram it, so I can change the colour of the LED or even make it fade between different colours. So I soldered the wires onto the board and then with a bit of hot glue held the board in place and put the 2 pieces together. Then just measured out the wires, cut them to length and soldered them onto the LEDs, then held them in place with some more hot glue. Then it was time for lots of sanding. So I started out with a belt sander just to round off all the edges, and then I worked my way up through the grits with a palm sander until I had a nice enough finish. And then I just coated the piece in boiled linseed oil. here it is. So I haven't attached it to the base just yet, so I can show you that there is the wall of white PLA that I slid up inside, which diffuses the light. And the other reason is because I screwed up the base. If you see here, there is 4 bolts that connect to it, and I didn't take into consideration that the height of the heads of those bolts are exactly the same as the height of the rim that I put around the base, so it doesn't fit flush. Now I can just cut some pieces out of here, or to be honest, I think I could do away with the bolts and just glue these 2 pieces together. So apart from that, I think it looks quite good. That's all from me, so if you like what you see, hit like. If you want to see more, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.